give a valedictory address. Sri Suresh Prabhu sir is a six-time member of Parliament and a former minister. He was formerly the Minister of Railways, Minister of Commerce and Industry and Civil Aviation. He represents India as India's Sherpa to G7, Group of 7 and Group of G20. He was the chairman of the prestigious task force on interlinking of river projects. He is a part of 16 global organizations and 9 strategic dialogues, which includes Global Water Partnership, World Economic Forum, United Nations Development Program, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, Asia Energy Forum, United Nations Committee of Biodiversity, World Federation of UNESCO, to name a few. And he has been named as one of among the top 3 Indian leaders by Asia Week magazine in its lead story, Giant on the Move. Sri Prabhu sir awarded India of the year 2017 and declared Best Member of Parliament in 13th Lok Sabha in April 2004 by Aaj Tak, the TV channel in India. Prabhu sir, the ranked as the second best performing minister in India today. India Today's report in 2001 on performance of the key minister of government of India. Before he entered the public life, he was practicing as a chartered accountant. He was the chairman of the state's largest cooperative bank, the Saraswat Bank. He was one of the first to push for digitalization in the banking sector. Due to his forward-looking policy making, he initiated the development of India's new industrial policy with focus on boosting sustainable manufacturing in India, and he always receptive to new ideas and appreciate constructive criticism while encouraging public and stakeholders' participation. Without extending this introduction, I warmly welcome Sri Suresh Prabhuji to deliver a valedictory address. Sir, floor to you. Suresh Prabhu sir.
So good afternoon, friends. Actually, I was really looking forward to participate in this important forum because I don't think there is anything more important than water in the world. Which sustains not just lives of people, but in a way, the life of the planet. There has been a lot of expeditions going on by many advanced countries in the world, including India, to discover the life on other planets. And what we are really looking for, amongst other things, on the is whether there is a water there. Because we know if you find water on some other faraway planet from here, that would be a clear indication that there is a life there. It's a different matter that the world community is not so much concerned about the water on this planet as much they are like to look out for a water on the other planet. That shows the importance of water. There are many countries, including right now, there's a geopolitical crisis which is brewing up in Africa when Ethiopia is trying to build a big dam which is going to create possible issues for Egypt, Sudan. The Nile, which is one of the longest rivers in the world, is being shared by many countries in the world, in that particular part of the world, in Africa. And therefore, water assumes a great importance in all aspects of our lives. Cultural life, as most of the ancient civilization has survived thanks to the rivers. Or political lives, because you can maintain peace with the neighbors or within your country, if you can provide water to all. It's also a very contentious issue, can snowball into a crisis if not handled properly. What is interesting is the water is a gift of nature. It's not a creation of human mind. Humans can consume it, enjoy it, but cannot create it. Technically they can, but not on the scale that we need. So the nature's biggest gift to humanity and to this planet to sustain the entire biological life is water. So we should not just thank the Almighty for giving us the water, but also manage it carefully, properly, judiciously, and try to ensure that water never becomes a source of an existential problem for the humanity, which might happen the way we are going. Very happy that all of you have debated on this issue for a long time. I wish I could have continued because I had to go I came exactly at 4:30. That's my problem, that I come right on time and to leave at 5 because there was some other program to attend. So I was waiting from 4:30 exactly, precisely. I had to go for other program because water is such a priority area for me as well that I wanted to participate and congratulate all of you. Water has many dimensions: environmental, social, political, cultural, but also technological. If you can work properly using, say, for example, geospatial technology and map the water resource correctly, you can actually use it more efficiently. Barring few parts of the world, more or less, where there is more human habitation, there is a water problem. Africa has almost as many people as India has, more than 1.3 billion people. Of course, Africa's so many people are divided into 54 countries, whereas the same number of people in India are in one country. But it is most populous part of the world. Africa, India, China are all facing water problems. This year, there are unprecedented floods in some part of the world, including China. And some of the reservoirs that we have created, like Three Gorges, the big dam that we have created on Yangtze River in China, for example, they're under serious threat because of too much of water. So the problem of water is not just less water, but too much water as well. So what is necessary is a management of water so that when nature gives us that bounty, how do you ensure that we use it in a more intelligent way? By using the best of technologies for both flood control and drought relief, but also for usage of water in a rightful manner. In India, for example, we have got only 4% of the fresh water of the world. And as I said earlier, almost 17% of the population of the world shares that water. So 4% is shared by such large population. Inevitably, there's a need for applying some prudential ideas. And some part of that water is available plenty in the basin like Brahmaputra. Whereas in Pennar Basin in India, same part of the country has hardly any water, less than 350 meters in per capita, whereas in Brahmaputra is more than 18,000. per capita. So this is a disproportionately dispersed water resources in the country. I'm glad that professor was mentioning about different connotation of it. And I'm glad that professor, you just gave a complete overview about what you debated and deliberated. I'm very happy that you discussed this aspect from all possible angles. The new dimension water problem is going to be a climate change. Climate change would mean that water will be a serious threat to the humanity. Too much water and no water for a long time. Complete changing of pattern of when we get the precipitation. Some part of the world gets more water from melting of snow. Now we are seeing that glaciers melting means so much of water will flow into the water bodies like rivers or even oceans, because all rivers finally meet the oceans anyway. So that will result in sea level rise. But that's a short-term idea. So that's going to create huge problem for people living around the coast. But when the glaciers will go, after some time, the melting will not happen, and therefore the good part of the population will be suffering because the snow-fed water will not come. So climate change is a serious threat. Today we are seeing that in California on the west coast, there are forest fires blazing even today. Amazon is burning in Southern America. So this is North America, this is South America. In India, we have seen floods coming. And floods and drought syndrome is very common to India. So water can create havoc at the same time by having too much or no water at all. So addressing these challenges is going to require huge skills, technological, social, political, also some economic inputs. We can use some economic instrument to manage scarce water resources. We can look into water as a necessity for not just sustaining lives of people like you and me, but also of the entire biodiversity of the world. Without water, the biological life will just disappear. And to provide water even for that, because biodiversity has no voice like you and me. The people can fight for their water rights, but biodiversity unfortunately has no voting right or no speaking power. And therefore, it's in our own interest that we must keep that interest in mind of ensuring that water is also provided for a much needed and most important aspect of biological life is the biodiversity of the world. We have lost good part of biodiversity in the world already. That's not because of lack of water resources alone, but because of completely careless attitude towards biodiversity. And now in future, we'll have to maintain it properly for our own good and for maintaining the ecological balance. So I think water has many dimensions. Agriculture, for example, food security of the world is so critical for our survival like water. And we cannot get food security unless we produce agriculture. And we cannot produce agriculture without water. In fact, in India, more than 83-84% of the water is used for agriculture. We don't realize it. So agriculture, the cropping pattern are all related to water issues. We should not ignore the importance of cropping pattern, because wrong cropping pattern can result into more absurd use of water resources. So we have to work on all these issues comprehensively. and in a very sensible manner, which I think will help us to address the issues. So let me congratulate the organizer once again for bringing together a very committed group of people, like-minded, I can call them water warriors, to talk about such issues and make sure. I will just end my speech by saying, to address the issue, I already started a campaign called Nisarga Rakshak. Warriors who will take upon themselves the responsibility of working on water issues. And why we call them Nisarga? Because you cannot have water without nature. We cannot have water without land. Where are the water bodies finally store the water on the land? So relationship between land, water, relationship between water and forest, relationship between water and biodiversity, the inseparable relationship between water, social, cultural, political issues, all that has to be dealt together. And therefore, I am very happy that we are launching this campaign. I am sure all of you will also join in this very important movement of people themselves working towards saving the water resources of the country and eventually of the world. I'm very happy that a very respected dear friend from Turkey, professor who talked so passionately about it. And Turkey has a very unique situation. It's a very large, beautiful country, and it's in 2 continents. They are also in Asia. Actually, one city in Turkey is in 2 continents, and therefore it's a bridge, I will call it, is between the 2 continents, but also probably, as professor was speaking, I was listening to him and saying to myself that probably, like Istanbul is a link between Asia and Europe, can we see that, professor, you could be the link between, on one side, a disaster that we're heading for if we don't address the water problem properly, or prosperity if we deal with water problems in more sensible way. And I hope we succeed in addressing it properly. Your guidance and those of all of your participation to this very interesting program will finally help us to address the water problem in such a way that we succeed rather than fail and move towards a better lives for all of us. So congratulations once again. As I said, I had earmarked half an hour for you, and I was there at 4:30 sharp, and unfortunately I couldn't participate earlier, but of course I benefited from your interesting inputs. Since they are all waiting for me for other program, I don't want to be keeping them in waiting, so I will leave you. But thank you very, very much, and please count on my full support for this endeavor of working together to realize the water problem. Thank you very much, and I'm really, really happy that you have taken this very important step forward to work on such a important but at the same time complex issues, so that we can work and succeed in this. So let me once again thank the Professor Turan for giving this interesting idea. I also thank Professor Senior Research Fellow Saraswati Unni for bringing these interesting ideas. Actually, we have lost a river, Saraswati, and we don't know where it has gone. But I'm glad that Saraswati Unni is here. So I think what we have lost cannot be recreated, but at least I'm sure the Saraswati Unni will be the custodian of knowledge and ideas to take and ensure that no more rivers will become extinct like the river Saraswati. I hope that happens. To do that, we'll work together. I'm very happy that Rao Sahib Bavaskar, who is the director of the center in Aurangabad, he invited me, and actually I could participate into this. I think, Professor, the director of the institute, Rao Sahib, I can promise you, whenever you need me, I will be available to participate in your programs so that we can work together as partners, as co-parceners. You know, there is a concept of HUF in which there is a joint family property which is divided among family members who are called co-parceners. So water is a joint family property belonging to all the citizens of the world. And each one of us have a right to protect it, but also enjoy it. But how can you enjoy it if you don't protect it? How can you not ensure that we keep it clean? Also, I couldn't add so many other dimensions of water issues. Quality of water. The diseases that happen because of water. I didn't discuss about the sharing of water. There are so many dimensions to it. I wish I had more time to talk about it, but I think one day we'll do that. And once again, thank you for bringing me into this very interesting conversation. Thank you very much. All the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for these wonderful ideas and this support that you promised to us. Thank you.